it is very important for you to understand and know yourself. By knowing yourself, you will find your true purpose. By knowing yourself, you will stop acting like a punk or being or putting others first. You will have boundaries. You will have boundaries not only for yourself, but for others. Hi, guys. Welcome back to another episode of the Emerance podcast. I'm your host, Emerance Victoria, and today we are going to talk about why putting yourself first is the standard, why putting yourself first is actually not selfish. So stick around. But before we dive in, I just want to recap the last 3 episodes. Wow. So, in the first episode, we talked about the 90%, which is your spirit, and the 10%, which is your consciousness, your logic, your physical body. And even if you look at science, science does confirm that humans only use 10% of their brain. And the 10% part of the brain is the left brain, because that's where logic resides. That's where all the things that you have to literally think and figure out is at. And honestly, when we talk about consciousness, we have to understand that our brain, it has to always label stuff. It always has to have to create an opposite so that they can understand something. All right. And in the right brain, that's where the 90% resides. That's where your spirit resides, creativity, intuition, all of that. And so when scientists tells us that humans only use 10% of their brain, it means that we are only functioning in our logic. We don't go beyond being creative. And if you notice today, a lot of us, like, we put more importance into people that works with the logic, like everything that has to do with building, everything that has to do with finance, money, all of these things that give you some sense of egocentric purpose, because that's what it is. Everything that the ego likes, it's part of that left brain. But if you notice, a lot of people, when they go through the arts, they want to create music, they want to be creative, we don't really celebrate them unless they're very, very popular, right? And so it just reminds me of myself. Like when I was young, I used to love new artists because I feel like when you're new, that's when you're very authentic. But then you notice that as much as they like, when you get popular, you don't have a choice but to go with the trend. And that's really sad. And that's the world we live in. And in the last few episodes, the episode 2 to 3, I unpacked a lot of truth, a lot of things to help you open your brain cells, help you go through some type of research on your own so that you can actually know your history, so that you actually know the truth. Because what I'm tired of is people being so brainwashed and so deep into their brainwashing that they don't even try to look outside of themselves. They don't even try to look at outside of the religion. They don't want to go out there and explore because someone told them that it's dangerous, right? But what I find weird is that with this brainwashing, which I'm going to go deeper in this episode, it made us totally miss the mark. It made us totally ignore our spirit, totally ignore our intuition. Many people don't know how to differentiate between their intuition and their own thoughts. And sometimes when our intuition tells us something, we ignore it. And why is that? It's because we have been used to always look at logic. All right. But our intuition, which comes from the heart, already knows what's going on, what's going to happen. All right. And I'm going to dive in deeper on that. But before I go in, I want to pick up on episode 3. In episode 3, I wanted you to know a lot of big things, right? I gave you a lot of things. And I also did not give you exactly the definition of everything because I want you to go in deeper into your own research. My goal here is to open up some brain cells because I don't know if you notice, but every time you read something, you listen to something new, you discover something new and your brain starts trying to like figure out what's going on, try to put one plus one here and one plus one there. I don't know, if I talked about pineal gland, you might be looking at Buddha or Hinduism where they put the red dot here. Why is that? Right? And it's funny talking about the red dot because I was talking to one of my friends and I was talking to her about the pineal gland, and like, I was telling her, like, people who put like the red dots here is to point out the pineal gland. And she laughed and she's like, I'm pretty sure people who put it there, they don't even know why they put it there. Guys, that is the saddest thing I heard. She told me that. When she told me that, I was like, you know what? You're right. Because even the sign of this sign, the holy, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, this sign, people don't know what it means. But eventually, consume my content, I will eventually discuss why these are happening or why that exists, or is it a trap? Is it actually a good thing? We will figure it out. So today I want to pick up on the third episode where I talked about the pineal gland. If there's one topic that I did not go deeper is the pineal gland and church. All right. Because I said last episode that the more melanated that you are, you actually don't need the middleman, which is the church, to communicate with God. And that church was made for people who had calcified pineal gland. If you want to know if you have a calcified pineal gland, all you have to do is look at your skin tone. All right. And I'm not sure if decalcifying your pineal gland means becoming darker. I'm not sure, but I know that there are ways you can decalcify it no matter your race, no matter how light or dark skin you are. But just know that the more like fluoride you put in your body, the more toxins you put in your body, that calcifies your pineal gland. And we can also say that that is the reason why a lot of people have diseases or are sick, because their pineal gland is just calcified. So you don't really have the communication with God. You cannot introduce goodness in your body. That's why I recommended once to do some sun gazing, spend some time under the sun. It's very important for you because we know that vitamin D is the antidepressant that you're looking for. And if you notice, if you're African, a lot of Africans, like we ignore, because therapy and mental health is something totally new to us, because back then we didn't need it. We were okay because the sun was with us, right? And we were in harmony with the sun. But the more we become more civilized, quote unquote civilized, aka slaves, the more we are getting more depressed. It's because we are like literally separating ourselves from God, right? So these are important information. But there's one thing that I lied about. Well, I did not lie. It was not a full truth, all right? Church was not made for people who had calcified pineal gland. It was made by people who had calcified pineal gland. Okay? And those people made church, created a Bible to control. The way to understand this is you have to understand that ancient Kemet, Egyptians back then, they had a civilization for 3,000 years. They lived in harmony and they had a specific way of living. So they did not have like schools that you have to go to and stuff like that. It was a choice that you had to go through, because they understand that when you're born, you have to go through a certain type of suffering so that you can rediscover yourself. Once you rediscover yourself and you're ready to fully grasp your highest self, to fully become a god or a goddess on earth, that's when you go through the stages. They have three grades, which is the grade one is just like between like you and I, not knowing exactly that there's a pineal gland, not knowing God. We just want to live in our animalistic way. If you notice, a lot of us, like when you live on survival mode, you're literally an animal. You're just living as an animal because all you think about is shelter, food, and pleasure. And that's what animals do. right? The difference between humans and animals is that humans have the capacity to disconnect from that, to go higher than that. That's why in the Bible it says that God created humans to walk over anything that's on earth. So our power is over anything on earth. That means He gave us the green light to become just like Him on earth, right? So the ancient Kemet people understood this. So they had three grades, which is grade one. I told you, people who just wanted to live on survival mode. You don't know, you just want pleasure. You're just going with life. Grade two is the people that are trying to now find themselves. They're looking for knowledge. They're learning about a lot of things that they need to learn. They go through the 10 virtues, they go through all of those things. And then when they finally grasp that and they're ready and they go up and down, I don't know really exactly the difference between grade two and grade three, but I know that grade three is where you become the high priest, is where your pineal gland, you're literally a god on earth, right? That's grade three. And you, like, if you understand that, you also have to understand that you cannot be a king in ancient Kemet without being a grade three student. You have to literally be a god on earth in order for you to be the king of a civilization. And ancient Kemet, the way they built their pyramid, the way they did their civilization was not purely on logic. They were using their brain 100%. 100% of the brain was useful, but they knew that the first thing that they have to do is be a spirit, detach themselves from this body. All right. And when you do that, you become your spirit is not bound by your sex, by your skin tone, by anything like that. Your spirit is free from time, space. So yes, people were able to move through space, go back in time, find, like, go and visit other worlds, because those are the things that are real. But when you have a calcified pineal gland, it's hard for you to grasp that, right? And so this is going to help you understand what happened to this beautiful civilization. This was their way of life. Their way of life, they knew that their purpose was to become a god and goddess on earth. And so they created a school system for that. And you cannot become a king without becoming a grade three student. And once you understand that, you have to understand, we'll have to pick up the Bible, because I told you that the middleman was made for people who had calcified pineal gland. But then it was also made by the people who had calcified pineal gland because they couldn't understand ancient Kemet's spirituality, ancient Kemet's way. That's why a lot of people say that the pyramid was made by aliens and stuff like that, but that's not true. It was made by people who had the goddess in themselves. They were living heaven on earth and they were respecting nature. And today we can say that we are not respecting nature. We did not respect nature for a long time. And we can also pinpoint exactly when that happened or why that happened. But before I dive in deeper, I want to say to you guys that when you understand that in order for you to become a king in ancient Kemet, you have to become a grade three student, right? You have to have this high knowledge of yourself and a lot of things that happen before that, before you. So if we go back to the Bible, we can pinpoint Moses, right? Moses lived with the kings. That's where he was adopted by the kings, right? So in order for you to be in a royal family, you don't have a choice but to go through grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. So Moses had these knowledge and he was able to do all the miracles because he was a grade 3 student, because he was now embodying God on earth, right? So the story of Moses, the real story, how I know it, is that Moses was part of the royal family. And he decided to take his people, the Jews, and get and do their own civilization. So he went to the king and asked the king to, liberate them so that he can go and take his people with them. And back in ancient Kemet, again, I'm telling you guys, they respected nature. You were not a slave, you actually were paid to do your labor. People that created the pyramid, they were paid. They were actually engineers. And if I tell you that you needed to be grade 3 in order for you to do wonders, then we can say that these people were all grade 3 or somewhat building this pyramid. All right. So back to Moses. So Moses, when he decided to do that, the king was like, I have this land, the land Canaan. He just gave that land to Moses so that they can go and live there and do their civilization. However, the king used that land, Canaan, to like literally throw away people that were not being civilized. All right. So bad people, let's say, there was also Egyptians priests, and there was a lot of other people in that land of Canaan. So it was not like a unified land. People already lived there. They already had their own stuff. So Moses comes, goes in the land of Canaan. They go there and he sees a lot of different other people. And of course, when you come with a bunch of people and now people already live there, like there's going to be conflict, right? So Moses went and started commanding people. He gave the 10 commandments. So going back to episode 3, I told you about the 42 laws of Ma'at, and I differentiate the 42 laws of Ma'at and the 10 commandments a bit. But if you guys want to go and do more research, go ahead, because this is all part of you learning. Your goal today is also to become a grade 3 student. So I just want you to understand that knowledge is power and the truth will set you free. Believe me. All right. And I am not a Christian. I grew up Christian. So I am able to pick up on all of these things from the Bible and from what I learned so that I can tell you, listen, this makes more sense than just the story that we have in the Bible, right? Because the story that we have in the Bible of Moses, it was pretty like just they were worshiping idols. They were doing things that all these other people were doing, the ancient Kemet were doing, and stuff like that. And it was bad. And so the 10 Commandments came. All right. But the 10 Commandments came from the 42 laws of Ma'at. Now, the 10 Commandments, its goal was to put order in Canaan. Because when people tell you what to do, to love your neighbor, to not cheat, to not do all of those things, it's all external things. It's all made for you to be obedient, right? So the 10 Commandments was useful for Moses' time so that he can actually put order in that civilization. Okay? So when you understand that, you take the Bible today and even a little bit further ahead in years when slavery happened, wasn't the Bible used for slavery? Right? The Bible, guys, the Bible is such a powerful book. People can interpret it the way they want. But I want you to understand that church, the Bible is created for you to be obedient. All right? So, same thing that Moses did, Catholics, people that started promoting Christianity, they did it to control. All right. Like I said, when ancient Kemet kings were going and becoming king, they literally had to embody this god called Osiris. And Osiris is the god of the ancient Kemet. So just fast forward with the Bible and things like that. Guys, today we are so in love with Jesus. We are so in love with church. We are so proud. But this, you have to understand, you are purely just functioning with your 10%, with your ego. All right. When people go out there and they say going to church and they brag about it, it's your ego. When you actually embody God, you don't have to tell people. You actually preach, you bless, you give, you love, you are good, you don't gossip, you don't do all of these things. So you have to really look at your heart. And that's why a lot of Jesus's parable, he would say that it's really dangerous for you to fast and all of those things, because oftentimes we do it just to be seen, just to say that we did the fast, right? But our heart, is our heart good? You know, that's why it's important when Jesus said, before you go pray, you have to forgive. If there's something bad in your heart, you have to forgive. And it's not because, you know, when you pray, the bad thing is not going to happen, is that prayer is an energy. You're attracting whatever is in your heart. So if you're praying for something good, but your heart is bad, you are attracting what's in your heart, which is the bad thing, right? So understand this and understand that the church made you become this good person for your ego, and we can see it no matter where we go. A lot of people, instead of just giving to people that are in needs in secret, they want to show it off to the world. And that's exactly what church did to us, right? Because we think that by doing something good, by doing things, we have to always tell people, right? You don't have to. Even when it has to do with fasting and praying and all of those things, you need to do it in secret. And I'll tell you what, if church were actually created for you to go get ahead and be straight with God, you wouldn't be tithing. You wouldn't be giving your 10% money, which is a material thing, to church. Because what the Bible says, what it means to give your 10% to God, is for you to go in a quiet space. You consciously, logically go into your quiet space, and that 10% you give to God. That logic, you marry your left brain with your right brain, and it's unified. And when you do that, the pineal gland is a unit, is one. Okay? So why putting yourself first right now is so important? It's important because when you put yourself first, you don't have a choice but to learn more about yourself. You'll learn more about what your name means, your astrology. What does it say about you and your future? Those are the things that ancient Kemet would use to guide them, right? Today the church says there's only one God and stuff like that. Yes, technically, and I'm going to tell you how and why. Basically, we as humans, right? The reason why we all see the same thing, the reason why everything, like I can tell you, I have the camera in front of me, and you can also see the same thing. If you were here, you would have seen the camera that's in front of me. You wouldn't see like a dog or anything like that in front of me, because we are all connected, and we're all connected to this source. This source is like, let's say, the sun. It's like this big fire, this big fire that's like literally that gave a part of himself to us, right? So that source, that's the connection. Just think about your iPhone or the Wi-Fi, right? We don't have, we have the Wi-Fi, we have the connection, but you just don't have one Wi-Fi here. It's all connected to one place, to one source. So it's the same thing as God. Yes, there is a God, there is a Yahweh. However, we as people, we are all a fragment of him. That's why we are seeing the same thing. Now, a lot of people don't understand that your spirit came before this body. All right? Your spirit has always existed. And this is something that you have to understand, because a lot of people think that this body is the physical that gives to the spirit. But it's actually the spirit, your back end. You are the driver. You are the one that has to put in energy so that you can manifest what you want in this life. So when you put yourself first, what does that mean? You stop looking at the 10 commandments, all right? Stop looking at the 10 commandments, because it is made for you to be this good person so that you can be civilized, okay? Look at the 42 laws of Ma'at. Look at that and tell yourself that this is what you need to do. That is in your DNA, because you know that if you do those things, you will not feel guilty. And now, Another thing, talking about guilt, the Bible, and that's the most dangerous thing that can happen to us, is the Bible, the church made all these rules, okay? Made you think that when you sin, you have to go and repent. You have to do this. You have to do that. God is going to be mad at you and all that. Oh, guys, listen, all of those things, especially the Ten Commandments, when you don't do those things, you feel guilty. It only builds guilt and you cannot rest. You are very restless. You are very, like, always trying to feel like something is coming for you or God is mad at you and stuff like that. But baby, the most confusing thing about the Bible is that it has the truth and it also has some remix in it. The Bible did tell us that God gave us the free will. While you're on earth, you have the free will. And in order for you to go ahead and ask God for forgiveness, you have to forgive yourself. And why is that? Why do people say that you have to forgive yourself? Because you are also a god and a goddess. You don't need God to come and say, I forgive you, because he won't. He won't come and tell you that he forgives you. You cannot go and, especially unless you hurt someone else, then yeah, go and ask for forgiveness. But if you know that you did something bad in your heart and it's killing you, please let it go. God also told you that he gave you the free will. If you are unable to free yourself, then you are creating hell on earth. So basically, was church created for us to just live hell on earth? Well, look at this earth today. Since church started, a lot of Black nations lived hell on earth. And today, many countries going through war are going through hell on earth. They're going through their own apocalypse. It's very dangerous and it's very deep. All right. This life, we're not supposed to just live in a circle. You're supposed to go and spiral. You're supposed to grow. You're supposed to make mistakes, feel guilty. Yeah, forgive yourself and don't do it again. Forgive yourself, let it go, and move on. Putting yourself first is understanding that you have the command, you are the authority, you are the source. You have the sourcing within you. Another thing that it's very important to understand when I say why putting yourself first is not selfish is that just how I explained to you that your spirit is the back end, you are the driver, you just cannot see yourself because this is who you are. You know, if you were to cut yourself open, you would see like stuff, right? Because that's how this body was created to do. But when you go in the quiet and you meditate, just meditate for long enough and you'll see yourself floating. And that's when you start understanding that that's your spirit. Your spirit does not have a sex, it's no female or male. In order for you to bring heaven on earth, you have to be in harmony with yourself. You have to understand that you are both male and female. You are all the duality that it's in there in this world. You're both God and Satan. I don't know if you guys watch Lucifer, but honestly, when someone told me that they were watching Lucifer, I was like, why would you watch a show that's about a demon? But then my sister was like, yo, Vicky, you really have to watch it because I think you will love it. And so I did. And I was watching Lucifer when I was hospitalized. And all the answers that I had was just confirming, confirming, confirming. And the one line that Lucifer said was like, yo, he is just here to teach people's lesson. He is not going into these bodies to make them do bad things. Humans have to understand that they are bad by themselves, and Satan has nothing to do with that. All right. So, what does that mean? It means that we can be both good and bad. That when someone does kill someone else, they're just into their animalistic, their survival. They're jealous, they're egoistic. You have to understand this because once you understand that it's not a spirit that came and like did something to your parent or took your sister and made her do some stuff, you have to understand that it is a choice that your sister made. Be accountable. Make them accountable. Because the 42 laws of Ma'at is there for us to be accountable. And if you are unable to understand this, then I'm sorry, you are just going to stay and be on survival mode. And a lot of African people think that there's some type of spirit that comes and makes us do things. Well, that could be true, but most of the time it's the vibration. You have to understand that our spirit, our soul is just energy. It vibrates. And because it's not there to interfere with us, it's actually there because it gave us the free will. We are free to do whatever we want. So we are free to even change our sex because it's possible, right? You can do that if you want, but it's not necessary because you are only hurting yourself. Your identity, your true identity, is to go back to your spirit and understand that it is through your spirit that you can be both male and female. You have to understand that it is very important for you to understand and know yourself. By knowing yourself, you will find your true purpose. Okay? By knowing yourself, you will stop acting like a punk or being or putting others first. You will have boundaries. You will have boundaries not only for yourself, but for others. You will have routines that are there to help you grow. Just like how you can, wake up every morning early, pray, and all that, you have to understand that it's not just because you dedicated a moment for prayer that everything else that you do during the day does not count. It counts very much because your spirit is always running. Your spirit does not sleep. And it's actually through your sleep that you see another world. Your dreams are just another world. So, putting yourself first, I'm going to leave you with this way of seeing the world, right? So, how this world is, we have these eyes to see, right? But you have to understand that this world is within you, okay? Your body is just reflecting what you've been manifesting, what others have been manifesting before you, because you guys are all connected with this source. Okay, whether no matter your race, okay, you are all connected. And no matter your race, you are also able to go and lift up your Christ oil that's in your 33 vertebrae. It goes through it and meets the pineal gland, kisses it, and then you bring heaven on earth. Everyone is capable of doing that. The middleman, the church, was not really created for calcified people, people that had calcified pineal gland. The church was not necessarily created for that. It was created because a lot of people that had calcified pineal gland, they did not understand ancient Kemet religion. You know, they called it the Egyptians' religion. And when Rome started, taking things, and they decided to close all the temples. And the temples back in ancient Kemet, they were made to heal yourself, right? They were made specifically with some vibration, sound. There was some temples that had specific ways, like the light were reflecting on the temple and stuff like that. Those were places where it was good for the body to heal you. All right. But when Christianity came and the Romans started taking it, they closed them down. They literally told all the people that had any other religion that the religion was not good, that we had to just follow this one religion, which is the start of our downfall. Today, I want you to understand this. It's very important that you understand that you are this world that you see. The world that you see is within you. And if you want to Google, everything that's in this world is part of your body. You have gold in your body. You have all of these things in your body. It's within you. So when you are thinking about something, that's why it's important that you have to have positive thoughts because it's reflecting. All right. You are literally always manifesting. You're always doing this manifestation on a daily basis. It's not because you prayed that a manifestation, you're going to wait for it. No, You prayed for it, but know that when your heart is bad, you are attracting those bad stuff. Your spirit is a vibration, it's energy. It attracts similar energy. So if you are praying and you're very, your heart is bad, you're just attracting bad stuff. You might see that sometimes it works, but sometimes, most of the time, your life will suck. So choose, all right? And put yourself first, because once you die, this show, this movie, it's not going to be here, right? It's like going to sleep. You go to sleep, but you know, there's actually nothing that's going on. You're basically dead when you sleep. Okay? Anyways, so today for you, I want you to understand this, and I also want you to go and do a little test for yourself. Try to think about the life that you have and how you manifested it. As of next week, we are going to talk about more about you, yourself, and how you can create the world that you want. This is just an introduction and to close up the last 4 episodes. So if you've been sticking around, I am so excited for you because we are going to touch on the topics that you've been really wanting to know. Okay, but understand that everything comes within you. Okay, so take care of yourself and remember, self first isn't selfish, it's a standard. Bye bye.